All right. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Living a Purposeful Lifestyle show. I am so happy to have you here today. So, today, my guest was supposed to be Holly Shannon, but unfortunately, Holly had something come up last minute and was not able to join us today. So, she will join us. We will be rescheduling over the next week or two, and Holly will be here with bells on, ready to tell her story, and I'm very excited about that. In the meantime, I just want to let you know what we're going to do today. So, obviously, when these things happen last minute, trying to get another host on or a guest on last minute is kind of tough. But I thought, I haven't told my story on living a purposeful lifestyle yet, and so I thought with the new show coming online a week from Thursday, for those of you who weren't here or not able to join for the live I did on Monday night, I did announce that I'm going to be doing a second show every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time. So that'll be 8 Eastern and will be 5 Pacific. That show is geared around retail stories and small business stories and stories about how to overcome struggles in small businesses. We'll do some case studies, and we'll occasionally have on a guest, but primarily what we'll be doing is diving into challenges and things that are faced by small businesses and retail and how they can overcome those. So today, as I'm telling my story, what I could really use some help with is if I talk about something or there's something that interests you or you want to know more, if you'll put those in the comments, I would love to share more and to go deeper into the story. So, with all that ado, I am going to get started here. So, hi there, June, and hi there, Bonnie. So glad you could join me today. So I will take you back. So I first got into retail as a young age. So when I was about 13, maybe 14 years old, my dad at the time was running a paint store for Sherwin-Williams in Nacogdoches, Texas, and doing a mighty fine job at that. I later realized in life that I learned a lot from him, and I see a lot of myself in him that probably never realized that growing up. But so unfortunately, my dad had a really key cog in his wheel, had a massive heart attack, left behind 2 young kids, and he was in a college town and needed help. And so at that time I was about, like I said, 12, 13 years old, and I was put into the game. So I started going to work with him. I learned how to tint paint. I learned how to use mixers. We did some ordering. We did put the orders away. He even turned me loose with the propane forklift that we used to load carpet. I still don't know why he did that, but he did. So I worked for him for about 2 years. I traded time for pizza and catfish and everything else you can imagine that a 13-year-old boy wants. And at that time, I was eating a ton. So I'm sure I ate my wages just fine. Fast forward, I turned 16, and at that time I had several friends that had gotten a job at a local in town, and I kind of wanted to make my own money, and I kind of wanted to do my own thing. So I went to work there as a sacker. I sacked groceries for, I don't know, about 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. One day it was, I'll never forget, it was really hot. It was in July. It was in the summer, and I was sweating bullets, and I got a call to come to the office. And I'm like, oh, no, I must have not double bagged somebody's stuff, or I didn't pack it right. Like, usually that's why people got called to the office. So I get in the office, and they're like, do you like sacking? And I'm like, well, I like the tips because back in those days, people would tip you, and you would take the groceries out, put them in the car. And because, I ran in and out, and usually I would sack anywhere from 2 customers, sometimes 3 customers to their 1. And, I was doing well and getting to know a lot of people. Well, they persuaded me to not SAC anymore, and to go into the dairy. So I went to the dairy. I was the nighttime dairy guy. Did that for a while, and really liked it. Because I could front and face, and I could really gin it out and make it look perfect, and it just kind of appealed to my OCD nature in that respect. I probably did that for, I don't know, 2 to 3 months through the end of summer and early into the fall. Once we kind of got through football season, I was in a band, so I was gone on Fridays for band things. And so once I kind of got through that time period, they came to me again and asked, would I be willing to make a change? And I went to work on the stock crew. Well, the stock crew was an adjustment because there's processes and there's certain ways of doing things when you're stocking, and it takes time to learn and to know how to do it in a good and fast way. But over time, I picked up tips and I taught myself how to go faster. And we used to race, and I'll never forget when I first started, they used to slaughter me. I mean, just kill me. So I'm very competitive. That didn't sit well with me. And so I said, well, the heck with this. They're not going to beat me. So I got better and better. And, I got to a point where I could keep up with them just from hustle, running back and forth from the cart to the shelf. And then over time, as I got faster and faster in my hand, coordination got better. I got to where I just smoked them. After doing stocking for about 6 months to a year, they came to me and said, hey, we'd like you to be the stock crew leader. Now, mind you, at this time, I'm probably about 17 years old, and everybody else on the stock crew at that time is 20 plus. Maybe there was another young whippersnapper on there, but most of these guys, this was their full time. This is how they made their living. And here's me. So I do it, and I did that for a while, and then it evolved into I was closing the store several nights a week. And finally, by the time how you doing, John? By the time I ended up with closing and all that, by the time I ended up graduating high school, I was promoted to a grocery manager. I did that. I had some great leaders. So I'd be remiss if during this time I didn't talk about Jerome Laird, Charlotte Weeks, and then Phil Metzinger were the first 3 managers that I worked for, all of them store directors. And, in the midst of all that was also a brand new store opening, and I loved it. I enjoyed the people. I got to know so many people in our hometown, and they treated me with respect, and they'd always taken care of me. Well, the company decided to move Mr. Metzinger at the time into the corporate office, and they sent a guy that was a store manager to our store. And at that time, I used to work so hard and go to school. And so what ended up happening was I got taken advantage of, and things went and things went downhill fast. The straw that broke the camel's back was I had a girlfriend at the time, and we were supposed to go to this concert in Houston on a Saturday, and I asked for it off well in advance. I come in, store manager doesn't show up. I end up getting stuck there, and I missed half of the show because he never came. And luckily, the assistant store director came in and relieved me, which was on his time off, so that I could go to Houston. And lo and behold, he was out on the golf course. Didn't care. Didn't. So, long story short, I decided at that time I'd had enough and started questioning of, do you really want to do retail your whole life? Is this really what Jay wants to do? And at the ripe age of 19, I was like, I don't know, this sucks. So I made the decision at that time I was going to join the Air Force. Well, I went and saw the recruiter, and within 2 weeks, I was signed up to go to the Air Force, and I think within another 3 to 4 weeks, off I went. In the Air Force, I spent a lot of time abroad. I was in a very specific job in the Air Force where we didn't have a lot of guys, so I spent the 5 years I was in, I spent a lot of time in Korea and Southwest Asia, a little place called Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. And being gone all the time was really hard. It just was one of those things to where I would get home, I would get unpacked good and somewhat resume life, and it was time to go again. So after serving through 9/11, I was at Offutt Air Force Base on 9/11, and that was a scary deal. And how we responded, we went immediately over to Uzbekistan and set up shop and started flying, intelligence gathering missions on the Taliban. So, like I said, that 5 years was a long 5 years, and obviously when it became time to make the decision, it was a very easy decision for me. At that time, I had a young son, and I just didn't want to be away anymore. So I got out of the Air Force, and at the time I was married. I got married shortly before going to Korea for a year unaccompanied. We'd had Peyton while I was gone, and I came home, and we got out of the military, and we moved back to Nebraska. I took a job with Edward Jones. My then wife wanted me to have a job that she thought was quote unquote more respectful or more, high end, like a bank type of job. I really have always loved investing and stocks and all that. And I got a great education in that. And, went through a situation where basically got blindsided with a divorce. Well, I couldn't make it at Edward Jones doing that. And there was more bills coming in than I could pay, and it was just a really bad situation. I ended up getting served with divorce papers after work one day, blindsided, no idea this was coming. I've got 48 hours to vacate the premise. So at that time, I ended up finding a guy on roommates.com that was in the Army that had bought a house and was going to school on his GI Bill. And I rented a room for him for about $300 a month, and started trying to piece together. I worked a number of jobs. I sold cars. I worked for McDonald's for a little while. And I just felt like I couldn't get ahead. I felt like I couldn't win, and I felt like no one valued me for what I could do and was not given a lot of opportunity. I just felt like a lot of days I felt like there was just no hope, like it was just not going to turn around for me. I would come home, and I had, like I said, at that time I started over in that one room. I had a blow-up mattress, a television, one of those old CRT heavy TVs, 32 inches, and then I had a bag of clothes. That's what I started over with. No family in the area. My mom and dad, they lived down in Dallas-Fort Worth area, and at that time they were still down in Lufkin, which is even further south. And all my friends, everybody that I'm close with and my family were all down there. By the time I come back home to Offutt, a lot of the guys that I served with had PCS'd or had moved on as well. So I really didn't have any support network here. And, my mom and dad worked. We were a middle-class family. They weren't in position to just up and take off indefinitely to come help me get on my feet. And I couldn't leave my boys here in Nebraska without a dad. So slowly but surely, things started turning around a little bit. And I ended up deciding I was going to go to this job fair. And that's how I ended up finding Kroger. So I actually went to the job fair hoping to run into Walgreens and thinking that I could get on with them as like an assistant manager and grow. Well, they were already gone. And so these Kroger C-store people started talking to me. They're like, hey, have you ever thought about being in the convenience store industry? I'm like, nope, never thought about that. And, nobody puts down, and this is kind of a running joke for me, but no one puts on their college dream sheet, I want to be a convenience store manager or in the convenience store industry, period. Our joke is you either fall into it or you're born into it, because so many other people's stories mimic mine to where they found it accidentally. Um, I went on and I decided I would give it a try. Now I'm going to tell you the night before I was supposed to start, I was laying in bed and I was thinking to myself, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to be a manager at a gas station." And it really started messing with my mind. But I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. I've got to do this. If I work hard for them for a year and a half, 2 years, I can then go and work at Walmart or Walgreens or somewhere else and get that experience and get back in the game since I got out of the Air Force and do what I need to do. And so what ended up happening after that was I went in and started working. And the first day I cleaned out and gutted their cooler and like scrubbed it, reorganized it, everything. And I had a lot of fun that first day. Second day I come back, I terrorized their back room. I completely pull everything out, scrub it out, clean it out, get the stench out of there, reorganize, run all the back stock. And the district manager comes in that I had met at the job fair and goes, "Who the heck did all that back there?" I said, "Oh, I did. That's me." She goes, "Man," she's like, "Where'd you learn how to do that?" I'm like, "It's pretty common sense, isn't it? You put stuff on the shelves, you keep it clean and neat. Like, there's no magic book here, right?" She chuckled a little bit and she goes, "Guess not." So long story short, I finished the training. I took over a really struggling and failing store here in Omaha, Nebraska. My first day I walked in, I had a staff of 3. That's me plus 2, and running a 24-hour location. I had an assistant manager that was, to be frank, he was a drunk. He actually ended up later, not by me, but got fired for drinking on the clock. And then we had another guy that worked for us that called himself the Overlord of the Night and referred to women as the first day I'm there, he's calling them my lady, like he's in medieval times or something. Absolutely hysterical. After I quit laughing, then I pull him aside and say, "Bro, you can't be doing that." I noticed on his name tag it says Overlord of the Night, and he actually had a name badge engraved with Overlord of the Night. So this is what I'm starting with. And the store, we're way behind for the year in sales. We're way behind for EBITDA. The store is a complete and utter disaster. And so I dig in. The first thing I do is I clean out the cooler, clean out the back rooms, clean out the office, throw all the old paperwork away. And I made a flyer and I went around the neighborhoods around the store and hung them on mailboxes. Well, I started getting all these kids in a good area of Omaha started coming in and applying. Well, next thing I know, 2 weeks later, I got a staff of 10 people, all great. And so, we started, when I got there, I had 21 candy shippers that have been stacked up in that store. Just to give you an idea, most of those candy shippers probably had 200 to 300 candy bars a piece. Those should have been put out on an ongoing basis, and there was just no management at all. So we sold through those 21 shippers within the first 2 months. Obviously, sales boomed, our gallons recovered, and we are busy. And so after being there 6 months, we were now ahead for all of our projections for the year. So we had made up and then some. Everything that was behind when I arrived. And so that really got people's attention. I was afforded a great opportunity to go run the busiest store in the company at the time. And I went and ran that store. It was right by the Air Force Base where I had been stationed at. So it was great because I saw people from time to time that I knew, and I knew how those guys think. And so we set record after record. We were the first store to do $1 million in profitability in 1 year. And then I got promoted to be a district manager. When I got promoted to be a district manager, everybody thinks that getting promoted is always this great, awesome thing. And it is, but it comes with its sacrifices. So at that time, we had to move. And I moved my family down to Lawrence, Kansas. And that was my first district, 10 stores. And we had to clean up some messes. We had a guy that was retiring and just really great guy. Just he was on the downhill to retirement, and honestly, just did not have the desire or maybe even the ability to go at the level you need to as a district manager. It is a young person's game, especially in our industry. It is go, go, go from ding to dong every day. We get that area cleaned up. I make my fair share of mistakes. I berated people, um, was hard on people. And I made a lot of mistakes in that first district. And luckily for me, I was smart enough to know when I made mistakes or to listen when people told me, hey, you really melted so-and-so. And then I would replay it in my mind and I'd think, that's not what my intention was. But perception versus reality, the perception's all that matters. And so I would make good with them. And that team came around me. And as they kind of grew and our team grew, we went from the last place district to first place. Obviously, then came the notion of, okay, we want you to do more. So then after that, I get moved around and I hit several different districts. At the time, I was disenfranchised with the regional operations manager I was working for. He had made promises that he didn't keep. He didn't come and help out. The only time I saw him was when the VP showed up, who I was really close with. And I took over a final district in Topeka, Kansas. And with the understanding I was going to get a raise and I was going to get a guaranteed bonus for 2 quarters because that district was so hosed and I knew it would be 2 quarters before I could safely say I'd had a chance to bonus. So I do I'm making progress. I'm running my system and we're making progress. And it comes bonus time, I don't get my bonus. Just call up the boss. Hey, boss, where's my bonus? Blah blah blah. Oh, well, let me look into it. Another week goes by. I don't hear anything. Calling him up. Where's the bonus at? Oh yeah, I need to get back to you. Long story short, we play this game for 3 weeks, and finally, I call up my VP. That I've got his number. We see each other. I'm close with him. I said, hey, what's going on with this bonus situation? What are you talking about? So long story short, the regional never cleared that agreement with the vice president. And because of that, they didn't make good on that promise. That same day that I got this news, I get a call from Burger King Corporation. And Burger King is asking me about moving to Omaha and being the successor behind the regional director of operations. Okay, cool. This is what I wanted. I've spent 2.5 years as a district manager at this time. I've done numerous districts. I'm ready for the next step. So I fly out to Orlando. I crush the interview. They make the offer before I get back on the plane. I should have known then that there was some red flags, but you know how it is when you're pissed off and you sometimes make bad decisions when you're in an emotional state. So one thing, if you're out there watching, is don't ever make big life-changing decisions when you're in an emotional time. It's just not smart. Long story short, they offered me a job, accepted. I moved back, gave my 2-week notice. Brian, who was the VP, tried everything to talk me out of leaving. And I just said, Brian, it's just time, man. And, he offered to move me back to Omaha. I mean, the man tried to make good on the situation. But I did tell Brian, I said, but I'll stay in touch. And we did. So I worked for Burger King, and within 6 to 8 months of me getting to Burger King, and let me tell you, I could get into some stories with Burger King about how they run business. So I am literally 3 days from starting for them. And mind you, this is November 1st was my start date. They tell me they want me to go 2 days before we're supposed to start. There was another guy starting at the same time. I get a call saying, hey, we want you to go to Orlando for training. Okay, no problem. How long do you need me to go to Orlando for? 2 months. 2 months? You do realize it's November and December, right? So long story short, we went down and we spent 2 months down there, and we flew home for Thanksgiving, and then we flew back for Christmas, and then we went down and finished up. And when we got back here in the first week or so of January, we started in our new districts. Well, we weren't even here for 6 to 8. We weren't even here for, I don't know, we weren't even back here. One thing we found out right away was that no one even knew we existed in this market. So then there's 2 or 3 people that get fired within the first week of us getting here. We took their jobs. So that created animosity. And then within 6 months of that, the company was sold. We were company operated stores. They sold them to a franchisee. So there's no way that they weren't already talking to them when they hired us on. So I'm like, oh my goodness. So here I put all this stock into coming here to get promoted, and now it's not going to happen. So I said, well, I can't just leave. So I stuck around, went through the transition, and there was a number of craziness that happened during that time, and I finally just had it. We did not work for a good franchisee at that time. They were located out of Chicago. The CEO of the franchise was great, but there was a lot less to be desired in that organization. I stayed in touch with Brian at that time, and one day Brian calls up and says, "Hey, you ready to come home yet?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm ready. So it's been about 2 years since I left. He ended up making good on some of the bonus money that got gypped out of, and we had a good agreement. I came back. For a while, I helped out. We had some situations going on at Cedar Rapids and Davenport. I was helping out there, I would spend the week out there, home on the weekends. And then it was a district that came available here in Omaha. Took that and was there. Within about 6 months, the company asked me to move out to Columbus, Ohio, and take over that market it was a Columbus, Indianapolis market as a promotion to the regional director of operations. At that time, I then was able to start working with a new team. One of our biggest problem out there was a lot of people who've gotten promoted who were not ready to be promoted. These were people who had at best been like a shift manager or something like that, and now we're talking full-blown store manager and don't know how to run a business. So I put my heart and soul into that for 4.5 years, and worked lots of Saturdays, lots of Sundays, lots of late nights away from my family to turn that thing around. And we started making some serious progress. We had grown the sales, we had grown the bottom line, and we had really started getting to a great point. Now, caveat that before, when I arrived there, that whole area was underwater, meaning we weren't making really any money. And especially for the number of stores there, it just wasn't acceptable. By the time I left there, we had 3 straight banner years and improved in growth of EBITDA. And so I also had to help out. We had a really wonky program going there where we were trying to sell groceries out of a convenience store. And some of these stores I'm going to talk about more in depth on the new show. I'm just telling you the abridged version of my life so that some of you who've known me or gotten to know me somewhat really kind of know how I got to where I am and probably why I'm the way that I am. So with that said, I get a call, or better yet, I got an email that was from our president of our division and says, "Hey, can you meet me at your office tomorrow morning? I need to talk to you." "Sure, no problem." "Daryl, you in town?" "Yeah, I'm in town. I'll see you in the morning." Cool. I didn't see him often, but it wasn't any kind of red flag that he was there. So when I got there the next morning, I was told that they were going to be strategically changing the entire makeup of my region, and that they were going to be running it out of Cincinnati, and that they didn't want me to be part of that. Okay, so I've done all this work, and here it is. but they offered to move me to Butte, Montana, or to Lancaster, Pennsylvania as a regional at that time. And my answers to that were no and heck no. And so, at that time I ended up taking a severance and felt really jaded about things for about a week. I was back in that mode. I was on that mattress living in that 1-bedroom room. And again, in my mind, I thought, why is this happening? And so luckily I pulled myself up and I started networking with recruiters. It was at that time that I really started to build LinkedIn. I didn't have LinkedIn before that time. And this is back in 2016, 2017. So I created a profile and started putting some stuff out there so I could reach some of these recruiters. I met a recruiter who actually knew Steve Buchanan and said, hey, you know Buc-ee's in Omaha? And I'm like, absolutely, I know Buc-ee's. Those were one of our biggest competitors. And we flew me out. I met Steve. We hit it off. And, he asked me to come in as a territory manager, but he was going to pay me what I was already making. But he wanted me to come in, learn, and then see where I fit in to do. Well, I was here for about 6 to 8 months, kind of just did what I needed to do, had a territory I was running, and then he came to me and asked me to be the director / VP of operations. And so I've been doing that now for the last 3.5 to 4 years, and it's been great. Obviously, in November, when the announcement came, I didn't get any heads up. Steve's a very private man, and he made the decision that he wasn't going to tell anybody about selling the company. And so kind of got, I'm actually visiting my parents. I believe I was down south taking my son on official visits for universities, and I get a call Sunday night that says, hey, Jay, it's Steve. I made a decision to sell the company. There's going to be a big announcement tomorrow. And that was that. It's been a long 6 months since then. And, again, I felt like I took over in an organization to where I could grow a lot. The biggest difference in this situation that I'm in now from the previous one was I was given a lot of autonomy. So I was able to move things faster. And so, we doubled EBITDA over the last 3 to 4 years since I arrived here. And we were able to do that through better managers, better people, building culture, making people buy into what we're trying to do. I set a vision of we were going to be the best convenience store chain coast to coast. And we set forth trying to make that happen. So when we sold the company, obviously, it felt like part of me died. I think I shared that on Monday night that it was probably one of the hardest things for me, because got to realize I've got 2 times back to back now where started off with just a complete mess, worked my tail off to turn it around, and then only to have to start over again. And then here I am again. And so, that's why when people ask me, well, why are you trying to do a side deal, Jay? Isn't, a day job enough? Well, depends on what you want out of life. I want to live purposefully. When I wake up each day, I want to go do what Jason Ricks wants to do, and where I can add value to other people and pour into people and to make a difference. I want to go help other people do what I did here with their business. I want to be able to go and work side by side with people and say, hey, here's why you're struggling with this. Or have you thought about this as an alternative, what you're doing? A lot of times people are doing things the way they are because that's either the way they always did them or they saw them done. And it doesn't always mean that's the best way. And sometimes all they just need is a wink and a nudge, and you can have tremendous difference maker for that person. And what better way to live with purpose, living a purposeful lifestyle? That's how this came to be. This show came out of that whole mindset of how do I tell stories and how do I find people and how do I help other people live with more passion and more purpose. So that's why I decided that I really am going to go and do this thing on the side where I'm going to help people as much as I can. And one day, hopefully, God willing, it will grow big enough that I can spend all my time doing just that. And I'm perfectly content with that because I made up my mind a long time ago. I don't have any desire anymore to spend my God-given abilities and interest and special anointment that he gave me continuing to make other people money that don't appreciate it and don't recognize it. So with that said, that's kind of my story in a nutshell. We do have a few more minutes. I'll see if I get any questions. I see Tim Young say it sounds familiar. So Tim Young was at Kroger and went through that same debacle. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe I remember he actually went through it twice as well with another company that he went through. So one of the reasons why I'm so giving to people, and if you'll notice, I'm so encouraging, is because being honest with you guys, the feedback and the things that I get through posts and through comments and things on LinkedIn help me gain confidence, and they've helped me come to the realization that I can do this and I can achieve what my dream is. I don't know how many of you are chasing your dreams, or how many of you, are out there that actively believe you're living your best life. What I tell you is, if you feel like you're not, there's hope, because believe me, if you knew or would have known me back when I was 15, 16 years ago, when I was going through that divorce, that I would be where I'm at today, I don't know that I would have believed you if you'd have told me. All I can tell you is that every day I got up to work hard. My mom wants me to tell the story of why they nicknamed me the Lion, so I will do that in just a second. But if you're not where you want to be, I strongly recommend you to wake up every day and go try to make a difference in the area that you are in. I can't stress that enough. Like, every day I just wanted to be the best store manager when I was a store manager. And as my responsibilities increased, then I wanted to be the best district manager. And then as I became the best district manager, then I wanted to become the best regional manager. And as I became a VP where I'm at now, I want to be the best VP and I want to run the best company. I always want to be the best at what I'm going to do. And if you don't have that mindset, then maybe really think about why you're doing it. So part of being purposeful is also knowing why you're doing something. And if you really don't want to do it, man, don't do it. Why do it half-ass? Just be purposeful in what you choose to do with your life. We only have one life, in every second. So the last 39 minutes and 10 seconds, I can't get none of that back. It's already done. But being here and sharing my story, I hope will inspire someone. Maybe it's nobody that's on here live. Maybe it's someone's going to see it tonight. Maybe tomorrow night, 2 weeks from now on YouTube. Who knows? But if I can make the difference in one person's life, spending 40 minutes telling my story, it was worth every second, because I needed somebody back then, and I really didn't have that person. And to this day, I don't even know how I crawled out of the hole. Well, I take that back. The reason I crawled out of that hole was my wife, my now wife. She was my person that saw in me what I couldn't see for myself. So the Lion story. So for my mom. So this is kind of funny. So anybody that's worked with me or works for me, especially, they know I have this thing about lunch. So if I don't eat lunch around 12:30, I get a little hangry. And so one day, one of the district manager comes in. We were having a long meeting. We were doing a rollout, and we just weren't able to go get lunch. So one of the district managers had taken it upon, they knew this at the time, they took it upon themselves that they got lunch. And they brought it in, and they said, we got to feed the lion so he doesn't eat us all. And so and they actually bought this big, giant stuffed lion and put it in my office. Probably 2 to 3 months after that. This was when I was out in Columbus. It's actually a really funny story. So then from then forward, it was the lion. Oh no, the lion's coming, and has the lion eaten? It was just really a lot of fun. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed the story, and I'm sorry that Kim, it's good to see you too. I haven't talked to you in a while, but I hope you and Mike are doing great. So Kim and I worked together back in Turkey Hill. That was when I was out in Columbus. Great support person. She worked in marketing and was just amazing. Her and her husband both. So love you guys. Hope you all are well and your kids are doing well. I'll see you guys on Facebook from time to time. So thanks for popping in and saying hi. With that said, are there any questions or any other stories that you want to hear more about? By the way, I saw all those messages thanking me for my service. I want to talk to them that for 2 seconds, if you don't mind. When I get told thank you for your service, I just want you to know I appreciate it. But it's hard for me. I was proud to serve, and I look at it as I did my part. I am proud that I served. I think that every young man should go serve that's able. I think I grew up a lot with that, but I don't think I'm special because I served. I serve because I believe in this great country we live in. I believe in our fellow Americans, and I believe in what others who went before me, my father served. And, I just believe that we live in the greatest country. And so for me, I just looked at it as me doing my part. So thank you for all that. Any other questions before we end this session? Yeah, Bonnie's right. There's always a reason for everything happening. And it's funny how that works. I think all of those setbacks or all those hardships has really inspired in me a great deal of empathy. When we have problems with employees, my first thought is not always of what are we going to do with them. My always first thought is what's wrong with them or what's going on in their life that's causing this. Because 90% of the time when we peel back the onion, we find out that misbehaving or acting out at work is usually in conjunction with troubles at home or outside the work. And sometimes if you can get to the bottom of that and really know what's going on, we're able to help and get them some support and maybe get them the help that they need so that they can crawl out of that mattress that's in that single room. So with that said, I don't see any questions. So thank you all for tuning in today. Like I said, we'll be back here next Wednesday, same time, 3 Central, with a great guest. And, if something I said today or something that the story I was told resonated with you, do me a favor, just let me know what it was or what part of the story resonated. And then, go make a difference in someone else's life. So thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate you, and have a great rest of the week, and continue to live with purpose and to continue to look for ways that you can be your best self and that you can live the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. Until next week, I'm signing off. Have a great, great day. Thank you again, and I'm out.